Peace and love. Hi, goddesses. Today, I want to discuss with you divine feminine energy. It's such an important topic and very relevant to everything that's going on with America and with Black America today. But it's one of the subjects that's not being brought to the forefront, not being discussed to the magnitude of its importance today. And what I want to talk about is the divine feminine energy. Divine feminine energy is one of the most influential powers that have ever manifested in this earth. In fact, I want to explain to you today and prove to you today why the black woman is the savior that Black America has been waiting on. There's a quote that I read that I love that's supposed to be a definition of a black woman, and that is black woman, beautiful, powerful, resilient, female of African descent, with skin kissed by the sun. That makes me feel some type of way when I read it. Black woman. We're beautiful, we're resilient, we're powerful, we're females of African descent with skin that's been kissed by the sun. Yes, it's amazing to be alive today. And with everything going on in the world, it's a bunch of chaos. But to me, I can still stand up and smile and say it's amazing to be alive today because I can see the tide is changing. I see that things are turning around. I can remember a time in my adult life where it was like black just wasn't the thing to be anymore. And most sisters won't admit this, but the way that we carried ourselves is evident. People weren't wearing natural hair. It was like we came to a point that was really scary for me because almost everything about us was fake. Our hair was fake, our nails was fake, our body parts was fake, our behavior was fake, our eyebrows was fake, our eyelashes was fake. And it's like, Dad, we just took this thing to a whole nother level. And it was scary for me because I didn't see how it was going to get real back. And now somehow, off of, I guess, natural selection, we're realizing that the only way to save our people is to get back to the root of who we are. I love it. I love my locks. One of the best decisions I ever made in my life. I'm going on 2 years now. It Although I was always a black woman, obviously, I've always thought of myself as being close to being natural because I was never one that got really fully into the wave of all the fake things that black women start doing. I wore weave a few times, but that was a little scarce for me, and I didn't really take it much further than that. But when I decided to fully dive in and get away from the teaching of the oppressors and find out exactly who our people were and who the black woman originally was, because this couldn't have been the mother of civilization that I was looking at, that I was seeing within myself, that I was seeing in my mother, that I was seeing in my sisters around me. If this is the mother of civilization, then this planet shouldn't have made it this far. So I had to dig and find out, who am I? How did I become this person that I am? And when I say me, I mean us collectively. Because I don't think of myself as separate from you, and you shouldn't think of yourself as separate from me, especially with us being sisters, because we were the first social circle. We were the first community. We were the first spiritual systems. We were the first everything. We were the first beings, humans that knew how to come together and build something, how to be creative together. I love black women, and I take it to heart when I see us struggling with certain things. And so that's what I want to talk about today. I think that we need to get a full understanding of what divine feminine energy is. And I think we need to get a full understanding of how the black woman is the savior of this world. Now, a lot of people hate when I use the term, the black woman is God. See, I love it. It even makes me smile when I say it because I know who we are. And see, the only reason that anybody is troubled by me saying that is, number one, you don't know who a God is, or you don't know who the black woman is. So that's okay. I'm going to explain that to you right now because I know that's a bold claim. But before we dive into how the black woman is God, let's look at what's going on with our people today. So the last time I was in the hood I grew up in, I was riding around and I remember just looking and I'm seeing on this corner it's a group of guys sitting there looking like they probably trying to get some money or figure out how they gonna get some money. And then I rolled down the street and turned the block and a little further, and this spot looked like they had all the money, like they were celebrating a party. And it was one thing I noticed different about the environment. The first group of people I seen was nothing but a bunch of guys sitting there like they trying to make a dollar out of 15 cents. The next group I seen, the party was cranking. I mean, it looked like they was having fun. Guess who was there? The black woman. See, even when it comes to clubs, club owners know this, marketers know this. That's why you'll often hear clubs advertise as ladies' night, ladies free, drinks free for ladies. Why? Because they know if they can get the beautiful black women in the building, they know the black man is coming. So they don't need to they don't need to cut a special deal to get him there. The black woman is his reason to get there. Even when it comes to the church, let's face it, most black men, young and old, that we see in the church, they were brought there by a woman. Whether it was your grandmother, your mother, your wife, your sister. Normally that brother was brought up in the church by a black woman. Why? Because we are the most powerful spiritual influence in the earth. We are the church. Without us, there is no church. And I'm gonna get to why we need to burn that motherfucker down in a second. Because we established that, we need to help in deconstructing it and lead our people back to our original worship, which was us, sister. See, they tricked us into dragging our man into that building. Because they know they had created a product in us that wasn't worthy of worship. So they convinced us that we were not worthy of the worship and that this Jesus guy was. So they got us to worship Jesus. Then they got us to get our men and bring them on up in the church. But we're going to deal with that in a second. So back to the sisters and how the brothers like to follow us wherever we go. We got them on the block. We got them in the club. We got them in the church. In fact, we got them everywhere. Everything the black man does is about getting the attention of a black woman. Even if he doesn't realize this is what he's done himself. No man wants to dress real fine to get the attention of other brothers. Yeah, you like when another brother like your car, but even more than that, you like the status that fancy car gives you, and that black women, or women in general, are going to pay attention to that status. You know that women today, we don't want no broke man. We don't care if you, well, some of us don't care if you get it from a job or you get it out the mud. We just ain't willing to be broke. So our black men are out here doing whatever is necessary and going hard at whatever is necessary to get that woman, to get that money, whether it's to help stabilize his family, whether it's to build towards his future, whether it's just to have fun. It's all centered around a black woman. Even furthermore, we're going to deal with how our men look at us as black women. And we got to take that back a little further than just men liking women. We got to take this all the way down to our sons. Because see, as a black mother, when it comes to our sons, we completely shape how this black boy is going to see the world, how he's going to see the women in the world. This black boy is going to learn how to deal with women and other men by the relationship his mother has with his father, with other men in her life. This son is going to look at how this black woman manages stress, because she's his image of strength at that point. The black woman, believe it or not, that daddy is the strongest thing. Daddy is the most important figure. That comes later. When a male child is born into this world, he looks to mama as his strength, as his comfort, as his nourishment. And as he's looking to her for these things, he's also paying attention to what she's providing, how she goes about getting these things that she provides. And all this is going to shape the type of man he will become and what this black boy will contribute to the world. I mean, come on, even the way we encourage their accomplishments and their goals, that can make the difference on if this black boy is going to be a broken black man or an excellent black man. From the youngest of ages, the desires of the mother is sought after by the son. You can see it when they grow up. If you find a mother who was always into dating drug dealers, it's a big chance her son is going to grow up to be a drug dealer. If you find a mom who seems to like tough dudes, or a mom that seems to like church men, it's a big chance that her son might grow up to be tough, to have an inflated sense of masculinity, or he may grow up to be in the church, to be a pastor, a preacher, a deacon, one of those church positions. Um, if this woman tends to date intelligent guys, oh yeah, her little son, he's watching, and he's probably thinking of a master plan on how to outsmart this man. See, our sons emulate their fathers, but in the beginning, it starts off with them from a vantage point of what does mama like, what makes mama happy, what makes mama smile, what gets mama going. With the black woman, his mother, being the greatest influence in both children's lives, men and daughters. But with our sons, we've got to admit that that's some strong influence. Now, before she can influence this son, she first has to get him here. So wait, what? She has that degree of influence and then she also creates him? She brings him here into this world. See, we come from a patriarchy society where it is taught to us that the male is the seed and the woman is just a carrier. But I can genetically prove to you that that is not so. In fact, the black woman already possesses everything in her body to create both a female child and a male child. Now, that's not to take away from what our kings bring to the table because let's even say this about our kings. They're awesome. Just like I see a turnaround in a black woman, I'm watching our kings rise up and be strong again. I'm watching them begin to protect the black woman again. I'm watching them have their face in books, learning. I mean, even the ones that are deep into the Bible, even though I think Christianity was a big error for our people, but just to see them digging as scholars through these facts. I love it. I love it. And I don't see how any black woman can't be a sapiosexual. How can you not be turned on by a man that's trying to learn how to strengthen himself, strengthen his people, how to unravel what has been done to us? But nevertheless, here we have this great king who comes and lies with this goddess, and his sperm creates a divine spark that initiates the sequence of creation. So from that moment, that sperm connects with that egg, the tail falls off. In that tail is 90% of the mitochondria DNA that comes from the man, which means that's 10%, which means the other 90% must come from the woman. Yes, 90% of the mitochondria DNA that creates the babies that black women birth comes from the woman. So after that baby is created, it then spends 9 months in a woman's womb, completely dependent on her. It's completely dependent on my thoughts. It's completely dependent on my nourishment. It's completely dependent on the energy balances in my body. It's completely dependent on the choices I make. I have to become the type of woman that lives my life to preserve my seed. I mean, I should already be this kind of woman. But those decisions are very important at that moment that I'm carrying that child. And even to take it a step past that, for 9 months, I'm fostering this baby in my womb. And everything I do, every fiber of my being is focused on sustaining, nurturing, and getting this child here happy, safe, and healthy. And once that child leaves my portal, now forget all this modern civilization where we got Similac and all these breast pumps and all this. No, we talking about the ancient black woman. We talking about the goddess. We talking about the big black mama, the mitochondria DNA and the titty that nourished civilization and got us here to this point where we're at now. See, when that baby came out of my womb, he already knew how to suck, because he was waiting for me to put my teeth in his mouth so that he can continue getting the nourishment that he needs so that he can be weaned and he can begin to watch me and learn from me up until he becomes until he reaches a stage of awareness where he's ready to go off with his father. See, the father is so important to the black male. But before we get to the point of him actually being able to walk behind his father, we got to talk about when he's being carried on my hip. Everything that he has, his nourishment, his medicine, his lessons, the way that he views the world is all starting with me. But that's still just the icing on the cake. Because do you know that before that seed is even placed in your womb, that your DNA has already been programmed to produce a certain type of child? And that's what we got to get to, black woman. That means before I placed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. That's scripture. That's Jeremiah. Before you were placed in your mother's womb, your mother's body already was aware of what type of seed she was going to produce. And you telling me this woman ain't God? How did this woman know what type of seed that she was going to produce? Why? Because she knows who she is. A woman cannot produce a seed that's greater than who she is. Why? Because it's all based on genetics, epigenetics. Well, epigenetics, which is a new discovery from us, is how, and when I say new, not today, it's advancing on how we're really getting to understand that the cells in our body has memory. It records every thought, every feeling, every action, every experience. It's all being recorded in male and females. But this is why the black woman is God, because the males don't produce the child. The woman does. When a female child is born, when a female child is in her mother's womb, she already contains every ovum, every egg she will ever have is already in her ovaries. So what does that mean? That means from the time I was in my mother's womb, that everything my mother experienced, I experienced it, and that experience was also being programmed into the eggs, the cells that are in my ovaries. So my mother actually held the power to influence 3 generations just with her conception of me. It's deep. It runs deep. And then when you understand that, when you understand how our DNA, our genes record everything that we go through, and you understand that that cannot be undone without intent, you actually have to understand the intent that was behind programming us to be the sick woman that we are today. And yes, I know a lot of black women aren't going to like that, but we got to admit we sick. Because you can't get healed until you realize you're sick. See, even Willie Lynch, it's some arguments on if Willie Lynch is a real character or not. That's not my concern. My concern is whoever wrote this letter knew exactly what they were up for. And they knew that the way to exterminate the black race was through the black woman. No, they couldn't kill us, because the fact is our melanin is what keeps this planet glued together. If you take away the melanin, everything falls apart. But I'm going to read to you some quotes from the Willie Lynch letter. He says, take the black woman and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. And if she does, you're good. But if she doesn't, you need to break her. Because when she's in complete submission, she will train her offsprings to submit to you. From the moment of labor, she will train her children to fear you and to submit to you. How do you get to the black woman that way? Well, you first had to remove her protection, which was the black man. And that was the first demise, the first step to deconstructing the black woman. And it's very hurtful to us when you really think about it. Because I'm a mother, so I can empathize in my life and raising my children, and have never been through anything like what my ancestors went through. The compassion in my heart can't imagine them taking my son and tying his arms to one horse and his legs to another horse and giving those horses commands to split and watching them rip my son apart. Excuse me. People who know me know I'm an overly emotional person, so I can't imagine a gang of white men coming to snatch my husband out of my home, and they whip him until he died. And then they whip him until he's on the brink of death. And then they bend him over, and they pull out their little tiny white peckerwood-ass penises and rape my husband in front of me and my children. See, in today's society, we like to beat the black woman up for who she is, but do you understand the type of programming that took place at that moment? That took the woman to a place of masculinity, of fear. She had to now move herself out of a place of God, of being creator, and taking on a position of her God counterpart. Now she has to be protector, and you really can't do both evenly. You can't do both evenly yoked. Whew. So after we watched them completely abuse, torture, and break our black man, it taught us to behave a certain way. And not only to protect ourselves, but we had sons to raise. And we had to raise sons that would not fall into that evil plan of the white man. We knew our sons were gods. We knew that they didn't need to bow down to this white man, but fear took us over. We used to have a strong dependency on our black man to protect us, but now we've watched him being broken down to a shell of nothingness. And during that time, we didn't give up on him, though. It was the black woman who nursed his wounds. It was the black woman who let him drink from her teat so that he can stay nourished when the white man was trying to starve him or wouldn't feed him. Yeah, it was the black woman that fed the whole family from her breast milk. It was the black woman who out in the field picking, watched nature, and learned what plants and herbs was good to help heal us and keep us strong and help us have some sustainability so that we can make it to this day. Um, the black woman, again, like I said, she was distracted because she realized that in order for her son to survive, he had to be physically strong but mentally weak. And she didn't intentionally create him to be mentally weak. She started off with her teaching him to be very intelligent, but she wanted him to know how to manipulate and maneuver through the system. Don't let the white man know you're intelligent. Don't let the white man know you know how to read. Don't let the white man know you really care about how he's treating me. Eventually, the way they treated our black man would get much worse. And eventually, they started giving the sisters handouts. Well, no, we done broke this black man and he can't feed you, but I can. And let's get off slavery for a minute. Let's fast track on to the 1900s. Shortly thereafter, slavery. Because after slavery, when they took their foot off our neck, we were making some advances in civilization. There were black families and black men that were restructuring communities to protect the black woman and to protect the black kids. But then you have things like the bombing of Black Wall Street and lynching that took place, and institutional oppression, laws that were put into place to stop the black man from being able to thrive and survive and provide for his family. And while shutting him down and breaking him down, you then infiltrate alcoholism and drugs into his environment, his situation. So now, even though he can't provide for his black woman, at least he can do a little alcohol and make him feel better. And then you turn some of our black women into prostitutes. Mainly so the honkies, yeah, the white men that used to pull up outside and honk their horns to have this black woman come outside and leave her probably emasculated, drunken husband in the house while she go off and sleep with this white man to get money to feed her children and pay her family. And while at first that black woman's doing it because she needs to feed her man and her family, after a while, she got a stank attitude about that. Because it's like, nigga, you gonna lay up here and get drunk while I go and let this white man bounce all up top of me so I can feed you? His brokenness then began to look to her like a not trying. Because if I can get this, how come you ain't getting it? See, she ain't looking at the system. See, after this white man got finished raping her, he then did create little portions in the system that gave her welfare and gave her food stamps and gave her a place to live, but kept her poor. Kept her poor because the white man wasn't going to lift her up out of that situation because she wasn't nothing but an old bed wench to him. And the white man kept the black man in a situation so that he couldn't lift her up out that situation. So the black woman got comfortable with the crumbs. Yes, sis, we got comfortable with the crumbs. And I understand how we got there. I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming you. Because like I said, that seed was planted in us after we watched them kill our man and kill our kids. And all we wanted to do was be creator and nurturer and survive. So we became the type of women, masculine energy carrying women, that was necessary to be the warriors that we needed to be in order to ensure the survival. And guess what, black woman? Nobody else gonna say it to you, but I'ma say it. Job well freaking done. See, the black man's beating up on us today for who we are, but it's gonna come a time that they're gonna realize that who we became, yeah, it was hard for our people, but it was like choosing the lesser of two evils. And what we saw as a lesser of two evils was preserving our seed. And we did that, black woman, and good job. But guess what? Now shit is turning around, and you don't have to be her anymore. We got to understand how our genes have been programmed to create these GMOs, genetically modified organisms, or GMBs, genetically GMGs, genetically modified gods. That's what we are. Because until we understand how they infiltrated our psyche and altered our DNA, we won't be able to take control of our consciousness and reprogram our DNA so that we begin to birth kings and queens into this universe again. The earth is waiting on us. Black America is waiting on the black woman. The universe is waiting on us to bring this balance. That's us, black woman. So, black woman, how do we heal? First, understand what epigenetics is. Every time we seen them kill our husband, every time they beat us, every time they did something nasty to us, it created fear hormones. And those hormones program us. Those hormones set off a sequence of events that creates what's called action potential. So that every time that we see something that resembles what we once feared, it's going to create a certain sequence of events that happens with our neurons. It's a neurological sequence of events that kicks off that tells us how to respond to certain situations based on past experiences that have been recorded in our DNA. And this is where you get transgenerational trauma from. Now, imagine how callous a black woman has to become to turn around when her black man is being murdered, to hug her other kids when her eldest son is being beat, to lay on her back and let a sweaty, white, nasty man bounce on top of her, all because she doesn't want her family to be murdered, or she needs a little money to feed them. Breast milk only lasts for so long. You only lactate after you have a baby. So unless a black woman was constantly reproducing, she don't have no breast milk to continue to save her family. And when you take the black man out of the equation, there's no reproduction. Transgenerational dysfunction is passed down by epigenetics. Its information is intentionally dumped into our DNA. And it's passed on from one generation to the next. So that whenever anything happens that gives us a certain type of stimulus, we already know how to behave. And thus, we have today's time. Do you think they ain't killing our black sons because they know it's affecting a black woman? Yes, that's why they're allowing it to be videotaped. It ain't so the man can get angry. It's so the black mother can see it. They want us to see them murdering our husbands. They want us to see them murdering our sons because they need to keep us programmed. They seen this breaking. They seen us breaking out of this. See, they wasn't really worried about the scholarly black man as they were worried about the black woman, because what they understand is if the black woman goes to the club, the black man's coming to the club. If she goes to the park, the black man's coming to the park. If she goes to the church, the black man's coming to the church. If she likes drug dealers, the black man is going to be a drug dealer. But when that black woman starts taking herself to the books, to the libraries, when she starts establishing systems to feed our children, when she starts coming together and saying no more black men that don't live as kings, when she values herself enough to adjust her crown and put herself back on the throne and says, no more will I deal with a brother who won't read a book. No more will I deal with a brother that will call me a bitch or a hoe, because she understands that when he calls her a bitch, he's called every ovary in her body a bitch. So before she even gets pregnant with his child, her daughter's already been conditioned to live and respond like a bitch. The black woman is getting elevated to a point that she's no longer tolerating that. And the colonizer sees that. So that's what all this killing is about. So I challenge the black woman to stop letting them feed that to you. We have to become the type of woman that is again saving our black kings, saving our black men, and not by being in the streets warring with them either, although that's revolutionary, but we'll come to that later. Right now, what we need to do is heal and become goddesses. We need to be their healers. We need to be their biggest fans. We need to be the ones that encourage them to read. We need to quit twerking for them and pick up a book and tell him, hell, bounce that ass if you want to, but tell him you will bounce it after he finished chapter 10. Quit being the type of woman that doesn't deserve the respect of a black woman. Now, you are due the respect regardless, because we are the mothers of this earth. There isn't a human being on this earth that they can't trace their existence back to the mitochondria DNA of creation, which belongs to the black woman. See, the Chinese woman, I got this from Brother Polite, the Chinese woman is responsible for the Chinese people being here. The Asian, the Hindu, Indian woman is responsible for them being here. The white woman is responsible for the white people being here. But the black woman is responsible for everybody being here. That's our influence, black woman. Once we get back on the throne and we raise our kings up and get them back on the throne, the world ain't going to be ready for us. We're going to be protected, because we're going to become something that's worthy of protection, and then we're going to get to creating. We're going to create babies that know they're a royalty. We're going to create our own school systems. We're going to create the systems that gives us the knowledge we need to know what herbs. We need to get up off of that witchcraft, that pharmaceutical industry. That's white people stuff. That is not ours. We deal with herbs. My children can tell you they rarely took medicine in their lives. Tylenol who? Robitussin who? Why don't you this honey with some minced garlic up in it? Eat this, drink some tea, lay down, you'll feel better, and you'll be in school tomorrow. That's the black woman's way. We need to get back to the root of who we are. I'm going to be dropping some more knowledge about epigenetics and just cellular memory. And then I also want to introduce the black woman to something called brain balancing. It's a way of life, I'm going to be honest. Because had we been in our original form, we wouldn't need to do all these extra things to recode our DNA. But brain balancing is something that the black woman is going to have to do. Because what brain balancing does, it breaks those connections that have been programmed to think, they have been programmed by past experiences, which produces the low state that we see the black woman in today. We're going to erase all that. And then we're going to give you a window of time to reprogram it. But first, in order to get it, you got to want it. And in order to want it, you got to understand what's wrong with us today. We can't keep being entertained. We can't keep being entertained, y'all. It's a time for that. And right now, we're at war. We're at war. And the war is actually towards our womb. They want what's coming from your womb. What's going on out here today is already dysfunctional. They ain't really worried about us. They worried about the people we are becoming, who the black woman is becoming, and how she's snatching her kids back. She snatched her crown back, she's snatching her king back, and she's snatching her kids back. And white America ain't ready for this. But the black woman is going to be. Stay tuned. I got more coming, more information coming on who we are. I'm going to break some things down more in depth, but I'm just trying to get y'all on the page of where I'm coming from. And hopefully we can learn together. Reach out to me, sister. I have another sister who I love dearly. We've grown together over this journey, but we're going to be collaborating and doing some lives together. And I encourage anybody, any sister that got something to bring to the table, bring it. Bring it. There's nothing good or bad that you can bring. It's just things that we might need to refine, things that we might need to gain understanding to, things that we might need to take a different vantage point on how we're looking at it. But come on, it starts with us. We have to connect first on so many different levels. We have to get over. A big thing that I wrestle with right now is I still wrestle with some insecurities and some jealousy. You know, I might not be the hoochie mama. I might not be the one feeding poison out there intentionally through our kids or listening to the music or listening to the media hype. But as a black woman, there are some things I have to get out of me so that I can connect with my sisters the way that it needs to be done. And we about to do that. We gonna start a movement. We about to set this shit on fire. Nefertiti Nefi. The black woman is God. The black woman has the divine energy, and therefore she is the divine savior of the black races of the world. Peace and love.